How's everyone doing today? My name's Chris. Welcome back to Bourbon Sane. Whether you're someone who's new to whiskey, just starting your whiskey journey, or someone like me who's been into whiskey for many years now, we're all looking for the same thing. Those great bottles at a great value and a great price. You know, walking up and down the whiskey aisles can be difficult and overwhelming sometimes. So many options, you don't know what to choose. Today I have limited it to just my favorite 7 budget options under $40. Now, it's tough to decide on price point here. 40 is kind of a middle-of-the-road pricing, I feel like, for whiskey, the way the market is now. 60 is really the sweet spot for really great and incredible bottles you can get. But I want to focus on $40 bottles today, and this is stuff that's going to be between $30 and $40 in most markets. Of course, that's going to be different depending on where you are in the country, but I just went by my state minimum pricing here in Michigan, and if it was a little bit above 40, I included it because I know we're bad on pricing compared to the rest of the country. So, a couple rules for today. Most of these bottles have to be affordable. So as mentioned, $40, that's our price point. We're going to stick with that, or between $30 and $40 in general. Rule number 2, it has to be readily available. So most markets have to be able to get this. It's not going to be stuff you almost never see, or maybe only shows up once a year. You know, most of these bottles I've seen multiple times a year. And rule number 3, it just has to be a good value whiskey. So the whiskey in the bottle really drinks above that $40 price point. That's going to be the big thing. So, not too many rules, nothing too intense, but this should be a fun one. And don't worry, if your bourbon or whiskey is not included in this, I'm going to be putting out another video if you guys like this, talking about a different price point. So budget bourbon's under $30, maybe under $50, so we'll do that $40 to $50 range, or $20 to $30 range too. So if that's something you want to see, please do let me know down in the comments. But let's not wait any longer. Let's get right into this one. Okay, well, these aren't going to be in any particular order per se, but we're just going to run down our 7, and we'll jump in with number 7 here. And that is going to be Four Roses Single Barrel. Now, this is just the regular single barrel, and honestly, this is one I've had for a few years. This is actually my bottle I had signed by Al Young when he was alive, which is amazing. I'll probably never open this, or if I do, it'd be a very special occasion. But these in general are still right around $40 for the base expressions. You know, Four Roses just announced their single barrel expansion, I guess, where they're going to be putting out all 10 recipes of their single barrels. Those may go up in price a little bit. I mean, most companies that they release something new like that, it's just an excuse for them to up the price and put the whiskey out. But these base single barrels that you find on the shelf are always delicious. I mean, really, I haven't had a bad one, you know, and I'm a Four Roses fan. I feel like I say that about almost every single distillery, but I am a Four Roses fan. You know, I like the whiskey in here, the variety you can get out of these single barrels. And still coming in at about $40 for 100 proof. I mean, you really can't go wrong with that, especially if you like the spicier rye notes. You know, let me know if you guys had single barrel, and if so, is that your sweet spot? Coming in at number 6, and this is actually a distillery I'm not a huge fan of. For those of you that have been following me, you know this. Maker's Mark 46. Now, of their base line, their base expressions, the Maker's Mark, the 101, the 46, and the cask strength, I think that the 46 is probably the sweet spot of that. Personally, I think the 46 cask strength is probably their best of that whole line, but that's over $40. So I didn't include that in this one. But the good thing about the Maker's Mark 46 is that they use French oak staves. If you've watched any of my other reviews, you know I'm a French oak fan. I've had a few different whiskeys now, just since coming back to YouTube here, where I've done French oak, like the Blue Note, and I really enjoy that. You know, I do like the French oak flavor profile as long as it's done right. And I think with the Maker's 46, I mean, they know what they're doing. You know, the Maker's has been doing it for years. And even though I'm not a big fan of their flavor profile in general, if I'm going to pick one out of their sweet spot in the Maker's Mark lineup for me, it's going to be the 46. So if you're a wheated fan or into wheated mash bill, something a little bit easier to drink, the French oak not only helps smoothen things out and take the edges off, but the wheated mash bill in general is also very approachable, very sippable. Coming in at number 5, this is probably another bourbon that is the best of their base lineup, and that's the Jim Beam Single Barrel. Now, I really like this bottle. This was right about $35 for me and 108 proof. And of course it's single barrel, just like the Four Roses was. So you never know what you're going to get out of these single barrels, but almost always these things are consistently good. They really are. Of the other options they have in the Jim Beam lineup, the double oaked, the 7-year. I think this single barrel is much better, personally. I think the single barrel is much better. And about the same price. A few bucks more compared to those other expressions. But to me, it's worth the upgrade to this. It's always classic Jim Beam, but you still get those differentiations between single barrels, which is nice. Not as much differentiation as some, more expensive picks, things like your Russell's Reserves. But still, for the price you're getting, about $35, you really can't go wrong with a Jim Beam single barrel, especially if you're a fan of their flavor profile. That nuttiness that Jim Beam, that classic nuttiness Jim Beam always has. This, at a budget option, is definitely a pickup. Coming in at number 4, I believe, is a bourbon that could be considered one of the most underrated bottles on the market, and that's the Cooper's Craft 100. I actually just finished my bottle of this, so bottle's since been thrown away. But this is always a delicious pour, honestly. Brown-Forman product, 100 proof, and the flavor profile you get out of it, so delicious. Honestly, so delicious. It's got a really nice sweetness and still that classic Brown-Forman where you get a little bit almost banana note. But I think at the 100 proof, there's a lot of 100 proof Brown-Formans I like, honestly, now that I'm thinking about it. The Old Forester 100, Cooper's Craft 100, even like the Jim Beam, or the Jack Daniel's Bonded, I really like that. So there's a bunch of them, and it's really hard to pick just one, but I think Cooper's Craft has that extra layer of sweetness as compared to some of those other ones, which for me, I really enjoy, but it still holds up enough to where you can put it in a cocktail if you want to. And I think for the value, still under $40, usually on the lower end of $30, I've seen in a lot of markets even, that it's a bottle you should always have in your bar, and actually I'm going to have to go get another one. Coming in at number 3 today, it was tough for me to know whether or not I should include this bottle, just because of availability, but I'm going to anyway. Eagle Rare. I know, Buffalo Trace product, availability. Now this is a store pick, of course those are more expensive, but most of the time, these Eagle Rares still are under $40 retail. It's right around $40 for me here in Michigan retail, if I can find it. The rules for today were it had to be seen once or twice a year. You know what I mean? And I do see this, even the store picks, once to twice a year. So that's why I included it. Other markets, I can't speak to that, but if you want an introduction bourbon to show someone what a little bit of age is and a nice, sweet, approachable flavor profile, Eagle Rare is always the choice. It really is. Eagle Rare or Russell's Reserve 10 is another one. Those are the two I was head-to-head deciding what to do, which one to put in here. So either one's approachable, and it's one of those bourbons you can, gateway someone into bourbon who's new to whiskey. You really can. You want to show them something with a little bit of age, but have it be really approachable, drinkable. This is what I always reach for. It really is. I wish it was more available, and maybe with Buffalo Trace up in their production so much that in the coming years it's going to be all over the shelves again like it used to be pre-COVID. We'll see. But at the moment, it's still worth the pickup, especially if you can find it at the $40 price point. Moving on to number 2 today. This is one I actually recently just encountered, and now on to my second bottle of it. The Knob Creek Bourbon and Rye. Now, it's not exactly all bourbon, but it is a bourbon-rye combo, so think like High West Boo Rye. I'd say maybe not quite to the level of that, but that you're talking $70, $80 for that or more now for that bottle. So this is the closest you can get to that without going over 40. Knob Creek, so classic Jim Beam, but it's got that Knob Creek nuttiness that you love. You know what I mean? You can definitely tell a difference between a Jim Beam, like the single barrel we talked about earlier, and then you move to like a Knob Creek 100. And there's a definite, distinct flavor profile and the differences between them. And if you've had it before, you know what I'm talking about. The Knob Creek gives me a little bit more creaminess. And with this, it is really a perfect blend of, that Knob Creek rye flavor profile I've had. If any of you have ever had the Knob Creek rye picks, single barrel picks, those are usually delicious and wonderful too. I love those, some of my favorite rye whiskeys. But this is a nice blend of the two. And the beautiful thing I love about this bottle, honestly, the proof. 113 proof. At $40 or less, getting the proof point like that for what's in the bottle and how delicious it actually is, I think you can't go wrong with this one. Let me know down in the comments if you guys tried this one yet, because like I said, this is something new to me. Maybe 6 months ago I encountered for the first time and picked up and loved it. So I picked up another bottle. Alright, coming in at number 1, I couldn't leave off my favorite distillery in the world. Wild Turkey 8-year. $43, I think, is state minimum here in Michigan. But as mentioned, other markets I know, they told me they're getting this around 40 to 35 even for the 8-year. I could put the 101 in the $20 to $30 price point, and maybe I will when I make that video, or if I make that video. But this 8-year has pretty much replaced the standard 101 for me on the shelf. You know what I mean? This adds a lot more, I guess, like well-rounded, better mouthfeel flavor profile than the 101 does. And I didn't realize it until I put them side by side or in a blind. Oh, this is delicious. 8-year age statement. It's still your 101 that you expect, but it's just amplified to another level. You know, it really is. Really is. And I love everything about this bottle. Can't go wrong with any Wild Turkey product, I don't think. But this one specifically, and especially if it stays at that price. When it first came out, I know prices were a little bit elevated around me. I think I had to pay $50, $55 for this, which I wasn't happy about, but of course I had to try it. And now it's really leveled off, and I can still find it, which is good too, because I was worried about distribution. But if you have not tried this 101 8-year yet, you should really do it. I don't know if there's a better bottle at $40 for what you're getting in this. Okay, well that's just 7 of my favorite bourbons between the $30 and $40 price point. The way the bourbon market is now, there's so many great options out there, and honestly, so many other price points we can hit too. So let me know what I missed. You know, do you agree with these options? Would you add or remove anything else? Please let me know down in the comments what your opinions are on it. Give me some feedback also on this type of video. Do you like these top 5, top 7 videos? Do you want to see the $20 to $30 price point, you know, the $50 to $60 price point, or $100 plus price point? I would love to put those out because there's so many bourbons out there. The other question I wanted to ask you guys was, do you like seeing budget options and things that are available? Or are you okay with me including stuff that's harder to get? You know, do you want just the top whiskeys in general? I'd like to hear your feedback on that too. So if you haven't yet, please do check out my website, bourbonsane.com. Still putting out weekly articles, news, and reviews. Loving doing it. And if you haven't yet, please do check out my Patreon page. Back launched, a lot of behind the scenes access back there, and nice perks, giveaways, things like that you can get if you do join, or even just check it out, join for free if you want. So, thank you all for being here today. I appreciate you watching today. Stay insane.